Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be able to say to you...
Yeah, we know. Paul Coyer introduced the world to Channel 4 on November the 2nd, 1982. These days that's practically Christmas already. We're already looking forward to a John Lewis advert at least. Edgy Old 4 has been home to some of the most creative and groundbreaking presentation in British television history, not least the original Flying Box themselves. And while they haven't exactly been the most consistent players at Christmas, why hello there, snow on the logo, they have produced some memorable, impressive, and occasionally genuinely downright amazing work, particularly in the Michael Grade era. Here's a selective but festive look at 4 at Christmas.
Welcome to Channel 4. This is Channel 4, the new national television service broadcasting through the transmitters of the Independent Broadcasting Authority. Channel 4 starts today at 4:45, offering a variety of new and interesting programmes 7 days a week.
As I said, Channel 4's original launch was barely 7.5 weeks before Christmas, so they really didn't have very much time to plan ahead. It's actually somewhat surprising that there was a Christmas ident on Channel 4 in 1982 at all. Even a very basic one with a slightly crude cutout of the regular animation chroma keyed onto some shiny Christmas lights, accompanied by the odd customised slide with the obligatory snow on the logo. 1983 came with this cubic motif, like an avant-garde minimalist take on the classic generic present. The accompanying ident was, if anything, simpler than the previous years. With the usual black void spotted with tiny sparkling dots to create a night sky effect. Cheap and cheerful.
This Christmas Eve, Channel 4 has variety and style. At 2 in the afternoon...
1984 brought forth a vibrant, multicoloured neon motif, at least in the trailers. But what with one thing and another, the ident itself remained unchanged. And it's worth bearing in mind just how expensive and futuristic the Channel 4 blocks were back in 1982. More than 2 years before these guys were moving colour TVs, and arguably more impressive, at least in its textures and lighting. In fact, the technology to make it didn't exist in this country in 1982, and it had to be finished in America at one of the progenitors of Pixar. And with Channel 4's budget being pretty low, it's not surprising that the ident remained largely untouched, even at Christmas. The blocks were first significantly altered in themselves in 1985, gradually freezing into an ice sculpture. That was nice, but the trailers were something else.
Celebrate Christmas with Channel 4 and Joseph Losey's film version of Mozart's Don Giovanni with Kiri Te Kanawa as Donna Elvira. The spectacular film version of Mozart's Don Giovanni, this Saturday at 9 o'clock.
I'm not sure if this is supposed to be the Antarctic or the ice planet Hoth, but it's epic as hell either way. Both unprecedentedly elaborate and startlingly alien and gnomic in that Channel 4 way. It indicated that the station was, after 3 years, growing into itself. To follow that up, in 1986, they went even more abstract, to the point of more or less losing the whole Christmas motif altogether. This bizarre close-up pinball animation certainly looks impressive and memorable, but not exactly festive, particularly with its cream, brown and black colour scheme. All they needed to do really was make the ball shiny and reflective, and colour the dolmens, or whatever those are supposed to be, green and red, and they could probably just about claim to have fulfilled any obligation on their part to be Christmassy. But of course Channel 4 has never really been interested in the obvious, or indeed the sense-making. It's just a shame that despite a shimmering rainbow/prism sort of motif on the logo in the promos, there was no special ident to go with it. The same was true in 1987, the first Christmas under Michael Grade, but at least the promos were interesting, depicting scenes from some sort of TV robot Christmas party, which doesn't truly get going until Channel 4 bot shows up. For some inarticulable reason, it does seem to successfully sum up the year 1987 in a strange way.
Christmas on 4! Yes, of course, Christmas on 4.
With the accession of Michael Grade and a new confidence pervading the station as a whole, Channel 4's promos were about to enter some sort of a golden age. Christmas 1988 was like nothing I'd ever seen before, on Channel 4 or elsewhere. A haunting and impressionistic tableau of a supermodel angel, accompanied by what might have happened if This Mortal Coil had recorded a Christmas album. Sadly, Angela here doesn't appear in the accompanying ident, which looks a bit more like Bonfire Night than Christmas, and indeed was reused a couple of years later for just that event. Yes, finally, after 2 years, there was a Christmas ident on Channel 4. They've got around the potential expense and or logistical nightmare of adapting the original animation by being able to afford to commission the likes of Lamby to make entirely original idents from scratch that don't have to make use of the same technology. This one also experimented with integrating the animation and the announcement together thus.
That's enough of the forthcoming attractions. Now the main feature.
Which I think turned out to really irritate the likes of John Livesey, so they didn't do it again. 1989 featured another angel, but an even more impressionistic one, surrounded by highly stylised candles, which turned out to be the real motif. The iconic 4 continues to evolve beyond its original flying blocks context. Well, except for one point halfway through Christmas Day when they have to cut to a news report about Nicolae Ceausescu and his wife being shot in the head.
We're now going over to the studios of ITN for a news report.
Might have been a little inappropriate to use the Christmas packaging there. Still, at least it wasn't introduced with fireworks going off behind the logo.
Christmas plus comedy equals Channel 4 and the maestro Tommy Cooper.
1990s promos returned to abstraction and minimalism with a simple prismatic wrapping paper motif. They also finally bowed to what seems an inevitable pun in the announcements.
Comedy for Christmas.
As for the ident, not only is it easy on the eye, it was a blessing for me and any other children weedy enough to be genuinely afraid of the four-score theme in its original arrangement. Even I couldn't be scared of this wordless choir boy version. 1991 pushed even further into abstraction, with the concept of Christmas on 4 wordlessly represented by this four-pronged star thing. Some kind of rostrum shot plastic model drenched in post-production gloss and set against some bizarre strobing multicoloured datascape. There's 25% Christmas, 10% cyberpunk and 65% acid house psychedelia. The star was a major, star over a Christmas period on 4, but when it came to the resultant ident, the king stayed the king. Said ident made use of a monolithic Perspex 4 logo and for the last time, the 4-score theme in its original configuration. A few things changed in 1992. With the station about to go fully independent, 4-score was dropped, partly to save on having to pay David Dundas a $5 every time they showed the ident, and partly to increase broadcasting efficiency by introducing an ident tune ambient enough to be talked over. Seasonal trailer stings and menus were also dropped in favour of grabbers, 10-second blipverts announcing the trailers. Starting out with the slogan "Keep an eye on 4",
Christmas. Keep a bloomin' eye on 4.
By late 1992 they'd evolved into the famous tapping on the screen motif. It was obvious that they'd keep that thing up for Christmas, and so it proved. With this prancy medieval thing. What specifically is so Christmassy about a court jester prancing about in the Middle Ages is not really a question worth asking. It just is.
Christmas Eve on Channel 4.
The associated ident is a lovely piece in stained glass, and a close down is allowed a valedictory lap for fourscore in suitably medieval woodwind. That was arguably the peak. From there, Channel 4's Christmas presentation, and presentation in general, starts to decline. 1993 was the first of a trilogy of themed Christmases on 4. Xmas in New York. Big Apple related programming, documentaries, movies, live shows, and all sorts of things were the reason for the season. And the idents were a part of that, consisting of rather lovely shots of the city that never shuts up at Christmas time, blurring into the Channel 4 logo in a way prefiguring the channel's top-to-toe relaunch in 3 years' time.
You're watching Channel 4.
1994 was Black Xmas. Basically the same general idea, but revolving around the West Indies rather than New York, and Jamaica in particular. Lots of reggae documentaries and the like.
We're dreaming of a black Christmas on Channel 4.
Sadly, there was no matching ident, just this rather half-assed freezing blocks animation, an idea they'd already done, and better, almost a decade earlier. 1995 was Beastly Xmas. Lots of nature documentaries and animal-related programming. For once, the theme was subordinate to the ident, which reimagined the 4 as one of those dangling lantern decorations and did very well with it. And that was the last Christmas for the original Flying Blocks ident. Objects flying through space to form up a central logo in a black void was all a bit too old-fashioned by 1996 for the supposedly zeitgeist setting 4. What with the BBC One Globe having gone ambient, and BBC Two having completely revolutionised the game altogether some 5 years earlier. But obviously they couldn't do anything too similar to that. They were Channel 4. They had to be ahead of the curve. Enter the first live-action, people-centred idents on British television, paired with a deliberately arch and even detached graphic design. This new verite style suggested a fairly obvious route for Christmas, and is one they quite happily took, with the circles whooshing in over various scenes of a domesticated Father Christmas, like Raymond Briggs's character reimagined in live action and directed by Ken Loach, which is about as Channel 4 as it gets. Sadly, at that point the station seemed to lose interest in Christmas presentation. Santa Around Town was half-heartedly recycled the following year, although they did have one new and rather charming ident for archive repeats. A holdover from their 15th birthday celebrations 8 weeks earlier. Meanwhile, in 1998, they simply didn't bother at all. By 1999, they changed idents again to a two-dimensional plane with the 4 in a square. At Christmas, this played host to a flurry of snowflakes and the 4 regenerating out of the outline of a fir tree, a more than adequate Christmas ident, which unfortunately played out every single one of the 6 years of this presentation style, whereupon it was replaced on New Year's Day 2005 by the 3D blink and you'll miss it optical illusions. These never had any Christmas variations whatsoever, until 2012 brought forth not just the 30th anniversary of the station, but the 30th anniversary of the Snowman, which in this day and age necessitates the creation of an unnecessary sequel, which also led to a lovely Briggsian ident, whose main downside was that it gave viewers a glimpse of the sort of thing Channel 4 could have been doing for years, if they could be asked. Since the last major revamp in 2015, things have improved. They never made Christmassy variations on the oblique logo-free initial idents, which were so successful they were dropped after a mere 2 years, or their replacements, reshaping and recasting the logo as a striding giant. But then there is a sense that everyone prefers the interstitial tumbling and or shaking blocks as idents anyway. There have been plenty of Christmas variations on those the past 3 years, with new ones seemingly added every year. Last year, for example, saw the introduction of the flatulent sprout jazz ident. And then a couple of years ago, they made another special one for a kiddie animation. Specifically, We're Going on a Bear Hunt in 2016. So they still give some amount of a care anyway. Some of us might miss the days when TV idents just showed a logo and pissed off. But this isn't bad for a substitute. Not a patch on this kind of effort, but who's got that kind of time anymore?